My name is Dawn Bacino. I live at 116 Stanley Avenue, Nutley. I am a proud member of BEA and NJEA. I am retired from teaching in the Belleville Middle School after 37 years as of January 1st of 2014. I am also a proud product of the Belleville schools, having done grades K through 12 in this district. So, between my 13 years of being a student and my 37 years of being a teacher, I have spent 50 years in school years in Belleville from both sides of the desk. I think that gives me more than enough credibility and authority to speak on the situation we're facing today. I was very good at what I did. I did it for 37 years, and I will put my teaching career on the line against anyone in this room. When I was a student in Belleville Junior High, we were a 3-grade school, 7, 8, and 9. We were terribly overcrowded. I believe my graduating class was 365 in those days. We shared hall lockers, so a row of 10 lockers had 20 kids trying to get into it. Because there were 2 students to a locker, the hallways were always jammed. We had up-only and down-only stairwells because of the crowds. Classes were very large, and teachers moved all over the building to whatever rooms were available. We were always short on books and supplies. In those days, the junior high was referred to as the zoo by the students, by the faculty, and by the townsfolk. It was very difficult to be a student in that building. When I started teaching at Belleville Junior High after college, not much had changed. We were still very overcrowded. Students were still 2 to a locker. Stairwells were still one-way only, and classes were still extremely large. Classrooms were at a premium, and teachers moved all over the building to different rooms each period. No small task with the crowded hallways. My first year there were 6 of us teaching in the auditorium in one period. I taught English on one side. The business math teacher taught on the opposite side. The band director gave music lessons on the stage behind a closed curtain, and there were 3 Title I teachers in the balcony. Another period, I taught on one side of the library, and the health teacher taught health on the other side. It was very difficult to be a teacher in that building. But the BEA and the Board of Ed worked together to improve conditions slowly but surely. They listened to what we needed. The 9th grade was moved to BHS, and we became Belleville Middle School. We had teams of teachers working together. We got books and supplies. We had rooms which we still shared, but we weren't in several rooms a day any longer. Students had their own lockers, the hallways weren't as crowded, and we went back to normal stairways, both directions up and down. The Board of Ed members back then weren't our friends, but they were professional, treated the teachers with respect, and valued our needs and our opinions. Fast forward to September of 2013. Take a good hard look at where we are today. This board has taken us back 37 years. We are back to being severely overcrowded, again with 3 grades. The new lockers are half lockers, top and bottom, so once again we have 2 students in the hall for 1 locker space, and the halls are jammed. The teachers are again moving all over the building, and God forbid if there was a real emergency, because some of the classes are packed very tight that you cannot move around. Very little regard was given to the faculty and our needs, and no regard was given to the students you claim to be for. Somehow to this board, this faculty has become an enemy you feel you need to squash. You targeted people who spoke up and didn't knuckle under. You seem determined to break us. You have one of the finest faculties in the state, and you are tossing away everything this town came together for and worked so long and so hard to achieve. Obviously, this board has no respect for this faculty. You ran this district like it was your own personal state, and you answered to no one. But you forgot one important thing. You need to answer to the taxpayers and the parents of those students you claim to put first. Sadly, you have turned Belleville into a joke. My heart breaks when I see what you are doing to to my friends and colleagues in a town I love. Look out at this audience. You thought you'd bully us. You thought you'd smother us. You thought we'd silently allow you to continue this blatantly outrageous behavior. But it looks like you made a major error in judgment. We aren't going away, and now everyone knows that. To make this right, we will not settle for anything less.
Forgive me if I get this wrong. Idrisio Mooney, please come to the podium. State your name, your address, and your group affiliation if appropriate. Did I butcher the name?
It reminds me of when I was hired. They thought I would only be hired if I were Patricia Muni and not Irish American.
Okay.
I'm here tonight not to blame, not to accuse. I'm here to give advice. And your reaction might be, who do you think you are to give advice? Let me give some quick family background. My father ran a neighborhood board. My mother ran a nonprofit board for a city in New York. My sister is head trustee of a board of a college and is on 2 court boards. My younger brother is on the local school board, and the failure in the family, no, not me, is my older brother, doctor in economics, all right, consultant, and a college professor. Unfortunately, he ran for the board on the proposition that teachers should be paid more. He didn't get picked. What about me? I'm a proud teacher of Belleville, 3 Tulip Lane, Harding, New Jersey. I also taught in another school district for 8 years, and they asked me to come back as principal. I have 40 years of either part-time or full-time in business. I have a graduate level certificate in managing nonprofits. I am an expert in change management and process improvement, because that's how I ended up my career as a consultant, and I worked for 10 years on a nonprofit board for teenage leadership. What's my advice? I'm a teacher. I believe they can be trained. I think they should be educated. I think they need to be educated on strategic planning, board governance, finance, succession strategy, and business ethics. I only know one board member personally, and that's as a parent. And she's smart, and she's ethical, and she's more than capable of being trained to take Belleville in the right direction. But every board member needs to look at themselves and say, do I have the background for that problem that's going on right now in this district? I would struggle with it, and I have a strong, strong background. And I think you need to do some soul searching and decide for yourself rather than me telling you, should you leave? You decide if you should stay, but I really do think you need training, and Mr. Egan, I'm not talking to you. Did you know there were red flags? When the previous superintendent left, the business manager left the same day. Red flag, and audit should have been done then. It's not funny. Anyone trained in business and business ethics knows you run an audit immediately. We were hiring plumbers and electricians. Please. I'm really not that good at it at the time. Okay, we hired plumbers and electricians. Meanwhile, we had gym teachers with more than 60 kids in the room. One of them has had a 2nd concussion. I asked when we did not get any of our materials, my last year of teaching, where's the money? And an administrator shared with me, we don't know where the money is. I went to the board. She knew. I asked another administrator, why for 3 months am I asking for the results on how my students did on the test? 2 years ago, we had won an award for being the best middle school. And all of a sudden we were failing school. I finally had a second administrator tell me the numbers had been managed down so we would be a failing school and get more money as a failing school from the state. I offered to be on the foundation, the Education Foundation, and I also offered to make a multi-digit contribution. And I was told by a third administrator, don't do that, we don't know where the money's going. So I'm asking you, did you know? I'm not asking you to micromanage. That's inappropriate for board members. I know that. I was on a board. I'm not asking you to micromanage, but you have to see these really strange patterns, these unethical patterns. All right? So, we need board members who can make tougher decisions than they're making in Harding, New Jersey. We need to think out of the box better than those in Harding, New Jersey. And you need to keep your head about you when those around you are losing theirs and blaming it on you. But if you're not the right person, get out now, because buckle your seats, you're in for a rough ride.
Tom McComb. Never again, I apologize. Sorry. It's good to be here.
Tom McComb, Continental Belleville. It hurts me when I realize that many of the teachers in this room are going to be cheated out of the experiences that I had as a teacher of 44 years. I retired in 2006, but I retired from a career that I loved. I don't know how many people here are going to say that. I talk to people, not just in Belleville, but people who cannot wait to get out of education. It's no longer a career that they enjoy because it's been made too difficult to teach. I have some questions on the agenda. In A14, it talks about the tenured and non-tenured staff, and that their names will be in the attachment in the minutes. 15 talks about the bus drivers and aides, 16 talks about the custodians. We don't get to see the minutes. If we look online next month when they're voted on and they're accepted, they're still usually not posted online. So I will never know which non-tenured staff members or aides or bus drivers or whatever are not hired back. I think it's information we as the audience should be given advantage of, but we don't. In 18, and I don't mean any disrespect to Mr. Jacobus, but in 18, it appoints him as the senior accountant again. It also states that when necessary, he will serve as a business administrator. If you look on the website, it says our business administrator is Mr. Jacobus. I've seen his name on other pieces of business of Belleville literature also. Is the man our senior accountant, or is he our business administrator? If we're using him as our primary business administrator, then give him the job, give him the money. If you're not, then his name shouldn't be listed as business administrator in places. It gets confusing. And again, that's no disrespect about Mr. Jacobus. On item 21, also under A, there is a list of different positions, and if there was a little bit of explanation, I probably wouldn't have to ask any questions. But since there isn't any explanations, it's just names and numbers. The vice principal, Mr. Aiello, it says he's getting 10 days during the summer. Is he a 10-month employee and he's being asked to work 10 additional days? I don't know. That's the assumption I'm making from the little bit that I see on 21A. It also lists 3 principals. One of them is Mrs. Cummins. Mrs. Cummins is, I think, our assistant superintendent, or if not, she's our director of curriculum. But for 10 days, she's going to be as a principal. Why? Again, one line would have explained it. She's taking somebody else's place? I don't know. I can't tell from the paper. Also, it lists 2 other principals by name. So it lists 2 of what I'm assuming are our grammar school principals. What about the others? When will we find out who those principals actually are? In item 22, it talks about Sean Holland being appointed as a technology coordinator. I asked months ago when we were first talking about Clarity, what's going to happen to our technology coordinator if we bring in Clarity? And I was told we don't have a technology coordinator. The only thing that person did was help Mrs. Feldman, according to Mrs. Feldman, in some of the reports that she had to do on the computer. And again, I don't mean that disrespectful, that was the answer I had gotten. So is the technology coordinator a new position? If it isn't, where does the technology coordinator fit in with Clarity? Who's going to be working with who, for whom? And item E6 is a second reading on board policies. I believe it was tabled last month. I may be very wrong, but I thought if you have a first reading and you make any changes to the first reading, you cannot then introduce it as a second reading. It has to come back because of the changes as a first reading. But again, that's from the little bit of law I know, and that a little bit of information is always dangerous. One last question, are there going to be any addendums? Because last week we were promised many answers to the questions that we had. We were told, show up next Monday and you're going to know what's going on. From the little bit that I have here, I don't have much more of an understanding than I had before I went to the meeting last week. Thank you.
Please come to the podium, state your name, your address, and your group affiliation.
Michael Iovino, 91 Warren Street, Nutley. Once again, I'm here on behalf of the Norton Teachers Union, and for tonight I can be Mike Mignon too. I graduated from Belleville in 1986. Obviously, I did K-12. And this is probably the proudest moment I've ever seen for myself in Belleville. When I saw Mr. Petrillo there and I saw the teachers there, when I saw the wonderful teachers here being acknowledged, it brought back memories. And I had a student once who told me, like, teachers are like rock stars. And I never really felt that until I started seeing some of my teachers here. So in acknowledging those teachers that came before me, Miss Kirk, Miss Follinsby, Miss Ashour, Miss Manzer, Mr. Hollis, Miss Rigo, Miss Shapiro, Miss Jemis, Mr. Klotz, Mr. Kennelitz, and the love of my life, Miss Kirsch. And as class clown of the class of '86, I also have to mention Mr. Westlake, Mr. Saccone, and the first person to give me a job in teaching as a substitute in Belleville High School, Mr. Petrillo. So everybody has him to thank for me. And I want to also point out that what is going on in Belleville is obviously something that's going on everywhere. And what you saw outside today is a sign that that is not going to happen anymore. I thank this board and I thank this superintendent. As Mr. Mignon said, you have united across city lines, across county lines, from Cape May to the northernmost portion, and I just don't know because I'm High Point. I knew that. I knew it was Cape May to High Point. Have brought people to Belleville. This is a battleground. And once again, Belleville United is Jersey United. And keep in mind, it isn't just teachers. We are uniting all unions. In Norton, I refer to everybody as an education worker because you can't open a building unless there's lights, electricity, and plumbing. And there's only been two things that have ever proven to have quality impact on education, and that's class size and class conditions. So for that, I thank all my union brothers and sisters, the teachers who change lives, and the workers who clean the bathrooms, who mow the lawns, who who treat this town like their own. And I'll be honest with you, I'm jealous. I'm very jealous. Because in Belleville, you get to work and you get to see your friends who work in this town. You get to rub elbows with the mayor at Rosebuds or Dunkin' Donuts. You get to see your teachers around the town. And in North, they just parade around in expensive limousines, administrators who live out of state, who get bussed in. This is a community. This town is the heart and soul of what America is. Middle class, blue collar, union built, born and raised in the town that they fight for on a daily basis. So I thank you for restoring that pride in myself and in these people before you. And I ask you one simple question. You got any jobs? I'm looking. About the surveillance system, Benjamin Franklin said it best. Those who are willing to sacrifice liberty for security deserve neither. Take away the surveillance system and let your teachers operate in freedom. Thank you.
We've been at this for 2 hours. I am going to call for a 10-minute recess. Do I have a motion?